And welcome to Thinking Differently and How to Become a Fearless Meta Leader. My name is Dina and I'm welcome to have you join us today. I want to make sure that we are all recording today. So I just want to make sure that we are all recording, and I believe that we are. So I want to go in and just review a few things that Sharon talked about last week. So as you know, Sharon Weinstein and I are together working on this meta leadership and thinking differently. And what does that mean to be a fearless meta leader? What's now? What's next? It's a new leadership mode. And you don't know what you don't know that you think you know. So that's what makes it challenging to lead anyone, anywhere. So we're going to move forward here. See if we can get this advancing for ourselves. All right, so what we know that today is hierarchy is not a hive. Well, what does that mean? That means that you cannot have the old antiquated way of leadership. You know, 40 years ago, when I was in my corporate job early in my career, you do what people told you to do. That's what you did. That's what leadership was. You made decisions fast. You were strong on your feet. You also had people doing what you told them to do. It's not that way anymore. We know that if we have that space and we hold that space the way that is today, we're not going to be changing the minds of anyone today, especially when we know that the Great Resignation is causing this pent-up resignation. What does that mean? What we're seeing around the world is that there's a lot of people that have this resignation thought. It's kind of pent up inside, whether or not they're going to stay or whether or not they're going to go. So having leadership that is based on a hierarchy, antiquated leadership, I'm going to do what I want you to do, and telling people what to do, it won't work anymore. It's really around giving people the ability to become their own meta leader so that they can be valued for who they are and what they bring to the table. Last week, Sharon talked about what is meta leadership. It is around leading up, leading down, leading all around, but it's creating influence. Leadership is around influence. That's one of the things Sharon talked about last week, is this powerful space that we can actually influence other people to follow us. It's important for us to be able to do that, to be able to stress that. We also know that it takes a lot of confidence. Leadership is about confidence. If we don't have leadership confidence, it's very hard to influence other people or to step into that role of leadership where you can create impact not only for yourself, but for your company. How important is building connectivity? It is absolutely huge. It was one of the missing pieces in my own career in 2015, after I'd been with my company for 25 years and leading high-performing teams and getting a lot of the accolades. One of the main things that I failed to do well was to build connectivity with other great leaders within the organization, both up, across, but also other people that I was not leading, and really needed to spend more time there, because belongingness is where people are going. It's what they're looking for. They're looking for that need to feel like they belong. It's a place where they are revered. It's the place where they feel like they're honored for their ideas, and they're actually questioned about how they think and how they feel. But you also have to create safety for people. And so becoming a fearless meta leader really does mean that you are working to create this fearlessness, this confidence, but also know that you can't do it alone, and you're gonna make mistakes. Many people hate, I do, I hate making mistakes. I also know that I'm just human. I'm gonna make mistakes. By allowing yourself to be human, by practicing self-care, self-awareness, how can you make sure that your eyes remain open and that you're present in periods of time during stressful situations and challenges and confrontations is so hard to do, because we operate by triggers. That's how we live our lives. it's really much less about, being present for a lot of people. We talk about it all the time about being present, being an active listener. This is very hard to do. So we're going to give you the opportunity to learn how to become a fearless meta leader so that you can live in the present, but also be human with who you are. So we want to build a we versus a me. We know that anybody that is running a company that's focused on what you can do for me, and I see this a lot in a lot of organizations and a lot of people that I'm currently coaching. I have a lot of women leaders that I've coached in the past who find themselves at that middle management place. They want to move forward. They need more tools, and more tools means it may be coaching, maybe being in safe spaces where they can learn how to think differently. We're going to talk about that. But many times they go to senior leadership saying that I really need more help in my own development, and they're getting a no. And when women ask, what else can I do? What they find is that they're taking on more work. There's a recent book that just came out called The No Club. It's putting a stop to dead end work. If you find yourself doing work that is not moving your career forward, it's called dead end work. We find that there's a lot of people, men and women, but especially women, take on a lot of extra administrative work, thinking that it's going to move their career forward. And when they get down to the very end, they find that their career isn't moving forward. And a lot of it has to do with how you think, what are your strategies? But what happens is we get triggered. And this is for men and women, for everyone. Triggers are this reactive response. When we feel like we're not being valued, if we feel that we're lacking a plan, the fear of the unknown, it's huge. People, more times than not, when you're not having a plan, there is this space, this empty space, and we fill it with all sorts of things that make us feel better about how we're doing today or the decisions that we made. That doesn't necessarily mean that, number one, you're living in your truth, or number two, that you're making the best decisions. We know that. We've honed a process. It's called diagnostic thinking. We know that 100% of the time in business challenges in the business world, we're not solving the right problem at the right time. It's because of these triggers. We have stress. If we feel we've been disrespected, we feel like we've been lied to, many times it's causing this great resignation. And now we've got this pent up resignation. When you look at 4.7 people who have left the workforce as of May of this year, and we have predictions of the pent up great resignation coming next, this is not going away. And it all focuses around what are we doing with triggers, because people don't know what to do with them, nor do we have an idea that they're actually very deep within ourselves. We do not have an awareness around how it shows up for us in the workforce, in our lives, in daily work. We find ourselves feeling a lot more stressed. We find ourselves coming up with health issues. We find ourselves doing other things in the evening to try to relieve some of the things that are causing this relentless narrative about being disrespected, undervalued, and what do I do next? And I think people have conditioned themselves to stay there for too long. So if you find yourself feeling some of these stress components, feeling like I don't know what else to do, maybe you've been overpromised, underserved, whether you're a leader or you take a different seat in the organization, you are a meta leader regardless of what chair you sit in. It's time that you take charge of what you want for your life and your career, and not letting somebody else narrate that for you. And that is so hard to do. Number one, you can't do it on your own. Number two, we all create a truth that kind of gets us by every day. And we know many times it's the untruth. And number three, we know that we need small groups of people to move those needles forward on meta leadership. So here's what we know. All eyes are always on you, regardless of where you are in the organization, regardless of what seat you have. You want all eyes on you, but you want them in the right way. But everybody is looking for something to kind of pick people apart. You know, having a reciprocity about yourself, a kindness of vulnerability, a givingness of the soul is going to create a different experience for everyone and also creates trust. But regardless, all eyes are on everybody. Everybody's looking at everybody. And they're coming through a place usually of judgment, of shame. And that's one thing that we've taken away with diagnostic thinking groups is we've taken away that opportunity for people to judge people, to shame people, because there is really no need in life and work to bring either one of those to the table. We're all human. We're all going to make errors. We're all going to think a little bit differently. The value of it is that we have a lot of the answers. And when we think in small groups and we create different neuroplasticities for what's possible, it creates a different experience for life and work. We know that. It's been vetted and proven. So the human factors of negotiation, let's talk about this, because every day is a negotiation, regardless of who you are. If you're a parent, you're negotiating every day. If you know who you are, we negotiate every day with our kids, whether that's picking up, whether that's being respectful, using your time wisely, cleaning up your mess, putting the dishes away. I got a whole bunch of those because I've got 4 kids. So just to let you know, we're negotiating every day. You have to give people a reason to follow you. And the reason is it's a decision on their end to make a decision to honor your request or to share ideas. You have to give people a reason to actually acknowledge you as a person first. So that's the first thing out of the gate. Finding these mutually agreeable outcomes and benefits. So if we're going to focus on getting the dishes done, well, we know that the dishes have to be done. We know that the dishes have to be put away. We know that the project has to be done. Let's talk about the value of putting dishes away, about getting the project done, about what is the commitment from their end to help move that forward, and what are their ideas to solve that problem. What's the benefits to them whenever they solve that problem? Reduce your need to compete. I think everybody today in this world has this intensity to compete for everything, compete for time, compete for money. Looking across the table, I'm comparing myself to that person. And that's one of my big issues I have. I'm always looking around saying, can I be doing things better? When essentially I'm also missing an opportunity to say, you know what, you're doing okay. You're doing all right. You're giving your best. Can you do things differently? The answer is yes. Can you do things better? The answer is yes. It doesn't mean that it's self-deprecation and comparing yourself to compete. So don't compete. Don't look around and compete. Be allies. Be clear on items for negotiation. When you have something that is a hot item, we have to be clear on what you're negotiating for. What do I want? What do you need? What do you want? It's not a competition. Negotiation is not about winning. A lot of people feel negotiation is about winning. It's not about winning. It's about finding a shared vision for what is and shared things that both parties need and want, and finding that agreement about how can you both find success in that. It's not a competition. So let me restate that. It's not a competition. Reframing repetitively during the collaboration is a skill. We do this a lot in diagnostic thinking. Diagnostic thinking is done in small groups. It's where women and men learn to think differently. It's a meta leadership skill. In order to think differently, this collaboration is a skill, and you have to reframe the question that you're trying to solve each time, because negotiation are small steps and small wins, right? Negotiation is, I want this, and this is how I'm going to go, and this is where we're going to end up. We have no idea where we're going to end up, but you have to find the small wins along the way and reframe what is the question at this point that we're trying to solve. Will we solve this part? How can we solve? Is it this question that we're trying to solve? Are we all in agreement that this is where we're at? We just have to figure out, where do we go next? There's small incremental steps. You have to agree on what's the right question you're trying to solve. You're also trying to share information and share the wins. You want people walking out feeling like the cost of this collaboration is where everybody does benefit. We do know non-collaboration costs the companies a lot of money. A quick story. I was coaching a large company. Sharon and I were both coaching this company, and we had a large company that we were coaching, and this company is a healthcare science company that had just purchased a very big portfolio. This manager was managing both sides, but also had leaders that were leading both of these silos. We had a manager right in the middle. We had one group that was feeling like they were the stepchildren and weren't getting a lot of resources. We also had the bot company who felt like they were due a whole lot more, but yet there was a non-collaboration in sharing information, sharing ideas. This was causing disruption in the company, disruption with retention, disruption with project moving forward, disruption with the agreed upon outcome. Nobody wanted to take anything to leadership because everybody was waiting till the house was on fire before they decided that it wasn't going to work, which we know is way too late. You have to get ahead of it. What we did, we got together, we did the diagnostic thinking sessions, decided on what we needed to move forward, engaged finance to be able to really define what is the cost of non-collaboration. It was costing them $12 million a day. So bringing that to leadership was kind of an eye-opener. We didn't say this is what we came up with. We enlisted other experts to say, help us to be able to decide what is the cost of that non-decision, non-collaboration, or what to do to move forward. Needless to say, this company was going through a lot of transition at that time, and so they had to do some level setting. But we did bring it to the table of what is the cost of non-collaboration. Folks, it's high. So you as a meta leader, think outside the box. What are you negotiating for? Are you solving the right problem? And who do you need to have at the table in a small group to help you figure out how to be able to solve this problem? Everybody has the answers. Collectively, the minute we stand alone on our island is when ideas get lost. People feel disrespected. People feel disconnected, and they feel like they don't belong, and people leave. So the human factors of negotiation are huge, and those are some key tips for you to move forward. I'm trying to get, there we go. To be a better leader, you have to decide to be a better person. And that's hard to do if you can't see what you don't know you can't see, which is the beauty of having diagnostic thinking groups. I may think I'm likable, but somebody on the other side may not think I'm likable at all. We want to focus on reciprocity. What can we give to other people? Do you have a consistency about who you are, or are you just doing it to check the box? Right? We don't want to live life checking boxes. We want people to be their unique human selves. We want them to be confident. We want them to feel committed, consistent. We also want to acknowledge their authority. Everybody comes to the table with something very unique that's very much of an expert in their wheelhouse. We will miss this if we don't give people an opportunity to share what they know and that they are honored for their ideas. Provide something that is seen as scary, right? So here's what scares me. This is what I'm fearful of. Allow people to share some of that things that really derail them and feel a bit scary. Going to my next slide here. Joining a diagnostic thinking group allows you to think differently. And I want to introduce my co-author, Sharon Weinstein, and I. So I'll give you a little background about Sharon Weinstein. I met Sharon about 2 years ago when we were advisors for HBA. And what I find is she is absolutely a master at change management. She serves on a lot of global board of directors. She's a content creator. She also is a certified business actuation coach. She is around inclusive behaviors and collaboration, and she is the next gen leader, creating next gen leaders. She expands minds and she is transforming thinking. And then I'm Dina Redinger. I created diagnostic thinking about 7 years ago when I found that faculty and women and corporate women, after I left my corporate job, are all suffering from the same thing. It's called broken thinking. So how do we solve broken thinking? We do that with small groups of trusted, pledged groups of confidentiality so that we can drive new thinking. I focused after my career in corporate America on mergers and acquisitions. I am a certified business coach. I've helped many organizations through restructures, reorganizations to help them build a culture where people are valued, where people can be part of strategies, where we're measuring for success. So that's what I do. Created diagnostic thinking in 2017 formally after I found and proved that this is something that's very real. So creating confidence is key. So creating confidence in what you don't know that you know. The subconscious thinking that lies deep within us is really guarded by our experiences and our beliefs. Those two together cause a lot of career stalls for everybody because we can't see it. You have to be in a trusted, confident group before you can actually see what you can't see. By enlisting other people, like we did in the prior example I give you, by other experts, you can find ways and strategies to move forward. And we found that women move much faster in their career when they have these confident groups that are come together that are masterfully facilitated through a process called diagnostic thinking. We find the gaps, we create situational strategies for next steps, and we track success. Each month we're tracking success. So when you join a diagnostic thinking group and learning how to think differently, there's an accountability for everybody in the group because everybody has been affected or come into some sort of contact with the problem that we solve every month. So it's not unique to one person. The whole group shares in those conflicts, those ways to move forward, to solve the right problem, to coming up with the right strategies. And you have to manage stress. You can't manage stress on your own or it will manage you. Sharon talked about, losing somebody from the fact that, stress was so high, it caused their demise. This is going on all over the world. The problem is people don't understand that stress is killing you. And the only way that we can do that is build these groups that can help us to be able to cut through the stresses that we have. So creating emotional and social awareness is the foundation for building leadership trust. You can't do this on your own. We'll say this again, and everybody is watching you. So you might as well jump in so that you can take charge of the things that you know that you can. So we want to invite you. So Thinking Differently is our new book. There's 18 strategies to fix broken thinking. We'll be launching this here within the next couple weeks throughout late July. And we are so excited to bring this to you because we do believe that this is a game changer. There's a lot of great books out there, and we've read a lot of great books, but we do have strategies of how do you move going forward? How do you create these opportunities to bridge the gap for diversity inclusion, because we know that's an issue for a lot of people. How can we have people feeling valued for their ideas and who they are so they decide that they don't want to leave your organization? We believe that we do have those answers. So I want to thank you today for joining us in this powerful meta leadership series. This is a 4-part series. We've got 2 more left. And we look forward to seeing you in our new series, Creating a Fearless Meta Leader. Take care, and I'll see you next week.